What is up guys, Stark here. I am back for another Fate video, and in today's video we are doing the character spotlight for the brand new 5-star Murasaki Shikibu. So Murasaki is going to be the 2021 Valentine's Day servant for NA, and she is going to be a 5-star caster. In my opinion, she's not really a character that I'm overly excited for, but she's definitely not a bad character by any stretch of the imagination. At level 90, she will have 12,833 HP and 11,374 attack. This will rank her 75th overall in HP and 29th overall in attack. Her star generation is 10.7%, her star absorption is 51, and her noble phantasm generation on her attacks is 0.45, and on defense it's 3%. So Murasaki is a really weird servant in my opinion. As a caster, she does focus on support a little bit. She focuses on damage. She basically tries to do a lot of different things, and she really doesn't excel at any of them, but she has a bunch of different effects that could be useful in a bunch of different situations. But mainly for Murasaki, unless you're using her in one of those specific situations in which she's going to be helpful for, then she's probably not going to be seeing a lot of playing time. And that is kind of a shame, but I guess without any real design or goal for this character, that's kind of just the way it ended up happening. So for her first skill, she will decrease the defense for all enemies for 3 turns. She'll also apply special attack demonic for all of your allies for 3 turns. So not a bad first skill. Being able to reduce the defense means you'll obviously be able to do more damage, and if those enemies are demonic, you'll be doing even more damage to them. Both percentages are 30% at level 10, and this will be on a 6-turn charge time. So not a bad skill. However, unless you're going up against demonic enemies, then this is mainly just a defense down skill, so not really the best. And this is kind of what I was saying before, with a very specific goal in mind for Murasaki. If you know you're going against demonic enemies, then you might want to bring her into the fight to get that bonus damage. But outside of that, at least for this skill anyway, she's really not going to do too much. For her second skill, she will have the chance to inflict Noble Phantasm Seal to one enemy for 1 turn. She will also increase her own Noble Phantasm gauge and also increase her own Noble Phantasm strength for 3 turns. So the chance to inflict Noble Phantasm Seal is whatever, you know, there shouldn't be a percent-based chance. But let's ignore that for now and just focus on the rest of the skill. 30% battery is really nice. The 20% increase to your Noble Phantasm strength is pretty nice. It's on a 6-turn charge time, which again is pretty nice. Since Murasaki is going to be an AoE damage dealer, this is going to be a very helpful skill. I just wish that the Noble Phantasm Seal was permanent, not permanent, had a 100% chance of succeeding. But yeah, you know, outside of that, even if it does fail, you do have some really good effects built into your second skill. I do wish that it was targetable. If this skill was targetable for an ally, then it would be a lot better, but I guess that's kind of hard to make work because you're targeting an enemy and then you target an ally as well. So fundamentally that wouldn't really work unless you had a chance to Noble Phantasm Seal the entire enemy team and then you target one of your allies. I guess it just really wouldn't work out that way, being able to have to choose an enemy and an ally, but at the same time, if you could, this skill would be a lot better. And then for her third and final skill, she will apply damage cut to all allies 3 times over the course of 3 turns. She will apply debuff immunity for all allies 1 time over the course of 3 turns, and she will also increase buff removal resistance by 100% 1 time over the course of 3 turns. So this is her pure support skill here, being able to do a whole bunch of different things, mainly with that 1000 damage reduction at level 10 on a 5-turn charge time. Really good cooldown for that. Now it does suck that they only last like a certain number of times instead of just 3 turns for all of the effects. Maybe that might have been a little bit too strong. But as far as defense goes, this is the only thing she has, so it would have been nice, at least for the damage cut, even if the damage cut was for 3 turns, and the other 2 effects were just the 1 time over the course of 3 turns, I think this would be a lot better. But still, 1000 damage reduction is still pretty good, so you can't really sneeze at that. Debuff immunity is really nice, and buff removal resistance is also pretty good as well. So overall, you know, not a bad skill in my opinion, but it could have been just a little bit better if they had a few tweaks to it. As for her passives, she has the standard 2 for casters. She has Territory Creation C+, which will increase arts card effectiveness by 7%, and she'll also have the Item Construction C, which will increase debuff chance by 6%. So all in all, for Murasaki's skills, I said it before, she kind of just is all over the place with what she tries to do. She has a couple debuffs, she has a couple buffs, she has a couple defensive things, she has an MP battery, she has the attack boost to demonic enemies. She has a lot of different things, but it doesn't really feel like any of it flows together in like a pure kit. It just kind of feels like a whole bunch of random effects thrown together into one character and, you know, hope for the best, I guess. They're not bad effects by any means. It's just not... it just doesn't flow well for me, you know? It doesn't feel like the kit works together to achieve a certain goal for this character. It kind of just feels like each of their own individual effects just fulfill a certain condition, a different condition, and you just kind of have to go off of that. Now, that's not necessarily like a terrible thing, because you don't have to rely on like using all of your skills in one turn. You can kind of save your skills for different situations, which I guess isn't really that bad of a thing, but it just seems so weird that none of the skills really complement each other at all. All in all, though, the effects are good, so I really can't take too many points away from it, but I am going to give her 4 stars in her skills. So taking a look at her command card deck, her command chains, and her Noble Phantasm, she has a balanced deck of 2 quick, 2 arts, 1 buster. Her hit counts are 4 across the board, except for her extra attack, which is going to be 5. So that's a pretty consistent amount of hits there. Pretty good Noble Phantasm generation based off of that. Unfortunately, though, as she is a caster and she doesn't have 3 arts cards, she's not going to be able to do those basic arts chains. She'll have to use her Noble Phantasm for that. But, you know, it's not... I would have liked to have seen her have 3 arts cards instead of 1 or 2 quick cards, but oh well. As far as her command chains go, for damage, she's going to go Buster, Arts, Arts, Extra. Of course, she is a caster, so she will do a little bit of a lower damage because of the damage multiplier, which is really unfortunate. So unless you're going up against those demonic enemies or using your Noble Phantasm, you're really not going to be able to do too much damage with her. For Noble Phantasm generation, I didn't include her second skill in this. I think I'm going to stop doing that. If they have MP batteries, I'm going to stop using it because it just kind of inflates the numbers unnecessarily. But you do get a 44% increase to your gauge by using your 2 arts cards comboed in with another arts card. So still, that's a pretty good amount of Noble Phantasm generation. And then for critical stars, you're going to get 25 crit stars by using her 2 quick cards and an extra quick card. So she has pretty good generation here for pretty much everything. So as far as her stats go, that's pretty good. As far as her Noble Phantasm, it is going to be an Arts Noble Phantasm that will deal damage to all enemies, and this will also inflict a nullified buff to all enemies for 1 turn. And the overcharge effect will deal additional special damage to demonic enemies. So again, we have her killing demonic enemies, so if you are going up against demonic enemies, you definitely want to consider Murasaki. She's very good at that. The ability to nullify buffs for 1 turn is going to be really huge, you know, especially if you're going up against a tricky boss fight that you know has the buffs that you need to get rid of. And she does some pretty good damage as well. You can combo it in with her second skill to do increased damage, and her first skill to kill demonic enemies. So, yeah, all in all, if you are going up against demonic enemies, Murasaki is definitely a good look. But outside of that, you know, you do lose a lot of potential effects with that. And of course, as a caster, you do have to justify bringing her in over some of the other casters, like Waver, Merlin, Scotty, the main hitters there for casters. So sometimes it could be a little hard to justify. So again, that's why I said she's a pretty niche character where you have to have like basically demonic enemies in order to use her, because she doesn't offer too much outside of that. All in all, for damage though, I'm going to give her 3.5 stars for her damage, but I'm going to have like a bit of a caveat there. And if you are going up against demonic enemies, of course, that would be a bit of a higher ranking. But overall, just in the grand scheme of things, I can't give her points based solely on going up against demonic enemies. I have to just take it as it is for, like, if I'm going to use her in any fight. So all in all, 3.5 stars for damage. And then for her critical ability, I'm going to give her 2.5 stars, which is about the average for that. She has no skills whatsoever for crit. She doesn't really rely on it at all, so I can't give her any points. But she does have pretty good generation based on her command chains, so I am going to just leave it there with that, with 2.5 stars. I'm not going to take any points away from her, but I'm not going to give her any points. For her Noble Phantasm, I'm going to give her 4 stars. It's a pretty good Noble Phantasm with some really good effects. Of course, if you are going up against demonic enemies, it'll just be a little bit better. But again, same with her damage. I can't really give her extra points because of that. It's just a very niche thing that you'll have to know going into the fight. Otherwise, it really won't help you at all. But all in all, pretty good amount of damage, and she does have that second skill to be able to increase the overall damage. She has pretty good generation and an MP battery. So all in all, that does combo together for a pretty good ranking for Noble Phantasm. For her survivability, I am going to give her 4 stars. She doesn't have any sort of hard defense like evasion or invincibility, but she does have the ability to do damage cut. Now, it only does last 3 times instead of 3 turns, even though it can potentially last 3 turns. But outside of that, she doesn't have anything else. She doesn't have any pure defense up. She doesn't have, like I said, invincibility, evasion. She has no guts. She has no healing. So it's going to be a little bit tricky to keep her alive. However, you can kind of make up for that with the Noble Phantasm seal. If you get that to go off, the nullify buffs for the enemy team. All of that can be very helpful in keeping her alive, but she doesn't have any like pure hard defense outside of that damage cut. So 4 stars. And then for her support, I'm only going to give her 3 stars. Most of her support comes down to demonic enemies. So again, I can't really factor that in to giving her points. But obviously, if you're going up against demonic enemies, then this stat raises a little bit. But yeah, her Noble Phantasm seal is chance-based. Her battery and her Noble Phantasm strength increase are for herself and only for herself. The damage cut is nice, but it's really not super helpful for surviving. Debuff immunity is nice, buff removal resistance is nice. Like, all of her effects are decent, but they're really nothing special to help support the team outside of very specific situations in which you absolutely need that. But like I said, outside of that, she's pretty much going to be sitting on the sidelines unless you're going up against demonic enemies, or you need her specifically to nullify buffs for the enemy boss. So yeah, she really doesn't offer a whole lot as support, which is unfortunate, but again, it's just kind of one of the flaws in her kit, in my opinion. And maybe I'm just being too harsh. Maybe I'm being overly critical of this character. But when I look at it, like, it feels like there's just so much more that it could have been than what it actually is. So yeah, overall, that will give her a 3.5 out of 5. Obviously, if you're going up against demonic enemies, then she is going to be a lot better than that. But more often than not, you're not going up against demonic enemies. So if you're bringing her into a fight where you're not going up against demonic enemies, this is kind of where she's going to be. She's not really a really good support character, as most casters are geared to be, and she doesn't have an overwhelming amount of damage that she can deal to kind of like offset that. So she's kind of just stuck in the middle, and she has so many other options that kind of outclass her. It'll be very difficult to justify bringing her into the fight unless you are going up against demonic enemies. And even then, you still might want to opt for a different caster. But again, this is my opinion. Maybe I am being a little bit overly critical of her. I'm still going to be pulling for her at some point. But yeah, I don't know. That's just my thoughts. Maybe if I get her and I start using her, I'll like her more. But as it stands right now, I'm not really big on this character. But that's just me. Let me know in the comments down below if you guys disagree and why you disagree. I always do like to hear your feedback on these character spotlights, because I don't use half the characters that I make videos for. So I definitely want to hear your guys' experiences with these characters, and maybe you guys know something about the character that I missed. So I'm always looking forward to that. And if she does get updates in the future and I do a re-spotlight on her, then maybe I'll have a little bit more to go off of to potentially raise her overall stats. But yeah, guys, that is going to be the end of this video. Actually, no, it's not. We have to talk about her banners. So Murasaki is a limited time character who is coming out for the first time, obviously, right now, for the Valentine's Day event. Outside of that, though, she will appear on the traditional Lucky Bag summons. But let's see, anything that she comes out on that is not that. So she does come out later on this year with Kintoki, probably going to be around September or October-ish for us on NA. She'll be available on the guaranteed SSR for the anniversary. She'll come out next year again for the rerun. And yeah, everything else outside of those is just going to be Lucky Bags. So you do have a couple opportunities to pull for her. Me personally, I'm opting to pull for her later on in the Kintoki banner. I am going to be doing a few rolls for her right now. Well, not like right now, but at some point, like when her banner's out, to try and get event craft essences for her event. But if I am going to pull for her, I'm going to pull for her later on when Kintoki's available, because I do want Kintoki, so yeah. Alright, so now we're at the end of this video, so I hope you guys did enjoy it, and if you did, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe, and as always, I do have the links below to my Twitter, Twitch, Patreon, and Discord, so feel free to check those out, and I'll see you guys next time.
限りあれば薄墨衣朝けれど涙ぞ袖を淵となしける源氏物語葵もののけ